And now, after we have gotten all the prerequisites that we need and have downloaded them like so and installed, we can start working on the project. Now, the first thing that we need to do is open the Eclipse IDE. Now, I have Eclipse Mars 2, which is the version of the IDE that I have. Now, meanwhile, as it starts, we can create the database. So I'm just creating a simple login page today. So for the login page, we just need a simple table which stores username and password, and with the username as the key. So we'll just create database example, and we'll say use example. Now this will allow the MySQL to select this as the database, and then say create table users, and inside that we will give two attributes, that is user ID of varchar 10 of size 10, and then pass, which is the password variable, password attribute, sorry, of also varchar 10, and then we shall initialize the primary key to user ID, and thus the table will be created. Now we will give it a default insert value, so we say insert into users values. Now we give the for this example I'll just give the username as root and also the password as root and semicolon. Now we just give a commit statement at the end. So this should be enough to create your database, that you require to do this project. Now select the usual workplace and let Eclipse load all the jars. Now I've already installed the MySQL workbench and the MySQL utilities, and I personally prefer you people to have the MySQL workbench because it allows you to control starting and stopping of the server, whereas the MySQL utilities console doesn't help you so much. So it's much more easier to click on a button to stop and start a server instead of having to type commands. And now here in the Eclipse IDE, since you're doing a web project, we have to create a web project right here, a web project. So there are two types of web projects, the dynamic and the static. For this one we will use the dynamic web project. So you can get the dynamic web project option right here, or else if you can't find it right there, just go to other, and in the select wizard go to the web folder, and inside the web folder you will find the dynamic web project file. So click on next, give it a name. The name can be example. I already have something called example, so I'll give it example 1. So then you have something here called as target runtime. Initially it will be set to none. Now the target runtime is the server on which we will execute all the files. So we have to create a server. Eclipse already has Tomcat configured into it, so we just have to create a Tomcat server. So you have to click on new runtime, and then from the three options, open Apache folder, click on Apache v7, which is quite a standard version of Apache Tomcat server, and click next. Now I've already gotten Apache installed, so I get this message right at the top, specify the installation directory. Now if you don't have it, it will show you an error that it can't find the Apache files. Now what you do is, if you when it shows that error, just click on download and install, because it does not come pre-installed. So you need to click on download and install and agree to the terms. and select the directory where you want the Apache files to be stored and click OK. Now it seems like as if it's already installed, but actually if you look down here, this is where it is actually getting installed. So do not click the finish button because that error will not go away. You just have to wait until it is completely installed, which shouldn't take too much time provided your internet connection is good. And once it is done, that error should go away. And as soon as that error goes away, see, it's installed, so that error should go away and you will get the same box. And then you will get to choose the JRE, just set it to default, and just choose the Tomcat engine directory which you had already chosen, and then click finish. But since I've already installed, I am not going to do that. I'm just going to click back and cancel. So I'll just choose a Tomcat that I've already installed once. I'll just select that, and then the dynamic web module version. Now Tomcat v7, that server supports these versions of web module, so we'll choose the highest version. This is a kind of web dynamic web project that it can support. These are different versions. And leave the configuration to custom or to the default configuration for Tomcat, and just click next, next, and finish. So here, as you can see, we've created a project called example1. Now I'll just open example1. Please do not look at the mini project, that's the other one that I've been working on. So example1 is a project that we have just created, and inside this you find so many directories. Now among all these, these two are the libraries which are included, and this is the most important directory of them all, which is the web content. Now this stores all the files that you will create right now, and this is where all of them will be stored and all of them will be accessed. So web content is the place where all of them are stored. So if at all you want to go check from outside of Eclipse, you can search through your through your directories from your workplace, and then select your project and then web content. This stores all your files. Now any kind of web project works on a front and back system, where the front is the display. Now the display is the page that you see. Now any kind of website, when you open it, you see lots of buttons, images, and text boxes. Now all these are created using HTML or XML. So in this project we shall use HTML to create the front view. Now the disadvantage of this is you can type something into some boxes, but HTML doesn't know what to do with whatever you type. It will just use it, keep it as data. Now to take that data and to check if it is there in the database, or to do a multiplication or division on that data, we need a backend processing file. Now that file is usually a JSP, PHP, servlets, or some other form of data processing in the backend. Now in this example, I'll be using JSP to do it, which is quite simple compared to servlets, but servlets is the right way to do it. I will do that in a future tutorial of mine. So right now we need to create a front display and a backside JSP file to manipulate the data. So first let's create the front display using a HTML file. Now to create a new HTML file, as you create a new class, just click on the new button. Should get HTML right here. If you do not, same thing goes, click on other, scroll down, go into web folder. Inside the web folder you have CSS, HTML, JSP. Choose HTML. Now CSS is used to improve the look of your front end. You can initialize themes and other attributes. So now when you create your HTML file, remember to create the first page of your application as index.html. Now this is the usual convention, because as if you want to run the application, you have to open index.html. Now if you name it as something else, the user must go to index.html and some other file name, maybe it is a.html, and double click on it. Now if you give it as index.html, what happens is when you want to run it, the user can just give the name of the project, and the index.html file will automatically be called and it will start running. So always remember to name the first file as index.html, because it will be automatically started if you give the project name. So index.html and then click next. So next you choose the version of HTML. So let it be standard HTML5 and then click finish. So now Eclipse is a very powerful IDE which gives all of these auto-filling options, and as you can see, so many headers and body, all of these tags are already pre-filled for us. Now the title tag is used right here. As you can see, title tag, now whatever you type between the title tag, now that will be displayed at the head of the browser. As you can see right here, it says Java EE. So whatever you type here will be displayed at the top of the browser. So let's just call this home page. So we just call this as home page. Now if you want to see how this output looks, all that we need to do is run this. So I mean, the best part about HTML is it will run no matter what. So you can just create this thing, click on save, and now it will ask you to choose the server on which you want to run it. So I'll just choose Tomcat v7 and click on finish. So as you can see right here, a server has been started. It's starting, and as you can see on the console, its starting process is shown, and now it shows that it is started. And when it is started, it will open a browser. This is built in into Eclipse, and as you can see, we haven't displayed anything right over here inside the body, so you don't see anything inside the web page. But since we've updated the title, you can see that the title's name has been changed to home page right here. So this is the first thing that you can do within HTML. Now inside the body, now what do we want to display? It looks nice if we can make it be placed right in the middle. Now by default whatever you type will be put to the left hand side of the page. So to make whatever you enter come to the middle, use this tag called center. It's been depreciated in HTML5, but it's a pretty easy solution to get all your data to come right in the middle. So just open and close the tags right here like so, and then within that, now what we need to do is create a login page. Now the login page should have two boxes. The first box is for the user ID and the second box is for password. So how do you create this? First you need to open a tag called form. Now this form is a tag which allows you to create buttons, drop down lists and text boxes, into which you can fill data, and this data can be sent to a JSV or a servlet file. So use the form tag to create such text boxes and drop down lists. So use the tag form, and inside that use this method called action. Now this action is a method which tells the HTML file to which file it should send all the data. Now like I said, you need to send it to a JSP file, but where you need to give a full address to where the JSP file is located. Now since this is located on localhost, on the local host of Tomcat server, we'll have to say http localhost colon 8080, which is the default value for Tomcat server. And if at all you do not know what that value is, just double click on Tomcat server. You can see over here the three of them. Since you're using HTTP, you have to just take this number, that is 8080. So double click on this and you get this page right here. You can just scroll over and just check for the HTTP port number, and that is 8080. So localhost 80. Now this is a very good way to write it, because there are the same localhost with a different port number will access a different kind of a function. So 8080 slash, now give the project name, that is example1, and give another slash, and now just give the name of the file, that is, I'm going to name it as index.jsp. Now this is a good convention to follow, to name the JSP file similar to the HTML file. That helps you understand from which HTML file is linked to which JSP file. So just name it as so. So as soon as I enter some data and click on submit button, it will send the data to this index.jsp file, which I haven't created it, but we will do so in a moment. So we open the form there and we shall close the form tag. Now whatever you type within this will be the data that you can take. So let's first give, now if you just type data within HTML, it will be displayed directly. So let's just say username. So if I just type this, it will just print on the screen the string username. So let's just say username colon, and now we need to take input. So you use a tag called input. So this input tag has a function called type. The type says what kind of input do you want. So we need a text box, so we say text. Make sure to put it within double quotes. So input type equal to text. So here a text box will be created, and now we need to say what is the name. Now name is a method that helps us name this text box with a variable, store whatever you enter into this into a variable. So we will just give the name as user ID. Now this is a variable name that stores whatever you are going to enter into this text box. So just close this tag, and this will be very important when you create your JSP file, because you can only access whatever is stored here using this variable name. So there you have username, and now let's say password similarly, and we use a different input type for this one, input type. Here HTML has a built-in input type called as password. Now what this does is, instead of showing you what it is, it will be replaced by bullets. Whatever you enter will be replaced by bullets, because passwords aren't supposed to be shown. And give it the name as name equal to pass. Let's just call it pass, and close the tag. Now this should open username and password. We need to create a submit button, so a login button. So we need to create one more input type right here. Say input type equal to, now the type for a submit button is called submit, and give it the name. This is just a variable, mind you, so you can just give it whatever you want, but I'm just going to call it button because it is a button. And you can use one more function called as value, which will assign what is to be placed within the button. So since it's a button used for logging in, we will call it login, and close the tag. So we will create a username a string username, and next to it we'll create a text box, a string called password, and next to it a text box which will store a password data type, which means it will be replaced with bullets, and a submit button. So we've created all three. So let's see how this will look. So click on that and click finish. So you can restart the server or continue with the same without restarting. Since you've not added any new, it's only a small change, you can just click without restarting. So as you can see, there's been no change. This is the previous view that we got. Now what you need to do is click on refresh. So as soon as you click on refresh, as you can see, got a username field, a password field, and a login field. And all this is placed right in the middle of the screen. So the center tag will place it right in the middle. But you do find that all three are in the same line. Now what do we do? How do you put it in the next line? For that we use a tag called BR. So a BR will put the cursor to the next line. So we will give enough padding between each and every attribute. So we'll put two BRs and just starting it, and as you can see, starting it right at the top doesn't look good. So right at the top you can just put maybe 3 or 4 BR tags right there to just give enough padding from the top. So I shall put 4 BRs right there and then click run. So should look much more like a normal login thing. So still you don't need to create something new. As you can see, it hasn't yet got updated. So click on refresh and voila, it looks like a proper login page now. So this is all that you need to do. That's it. This is the HTML page. You're done with the HTML page right now. So next we have to create the JSP page.